É, pessoal. Ontem o Fluminense fez história. Venceu o bilionário Al Hilal e está na semifinal do Mundial de Clubes. E hoje, tanto o técnico do Al Hilal quanto o mundo inteiro se renderam ao Fluminense e ao futebol brasileiro. Fica até o final para ver em detalhes tudo o que foi dito pelo treinador do Al Hilal. E depois, claro, quero saber a sua opinião sobre tudo isso. Quem diria, hein? O Fluminense, um time com menos investimento, pouca mídia e uma torcida majoritariamente concentrada no Brasil, chegando tão longe nesse torneio? Sinceramente, ninguém apostava que o Flu iria tão longe, muito menos que chegaria à semifinal jogando esse futebol bonito, organizado e corajoso. Nas oitavas, eliminou a Inter de Milão, vice-campeã da Champions. Agora, superou o Al Hilal, que mais parece uma seleção europeia disfarçada. E com tudo isso, dá para dizer com tranquilidade: até aqui, o Fluminense é o melhor time brasileiro neste Mundial. E mais, é o time brasileiro que foi mais longe na competição, agora que o Palmeiras já foi eliminado. E digo mais, com o Flu encarando o Chelsea, sinceramente, vejo grandes chances do tricolor avançar. Porque nem contra o Palmeiras o Chelsea mostrou aquele futebol todo.
As well and aggressive at the right times as well.
The timing's really important, especially in the pressing.
Right?
Like everything at the front forward press is really impressive, super aggressive, but it's timed. And when you have different individuals, you might not have the same cohesion. And like I say, the timing's the most important bit.
Yeah, exactly. Because they sort of didn't press. There was big gaps, wasn't there, when they had the ball? So it is all about going at the right time. And yeah, great spot, Neve. Let's talk about the winning goal then, Liez, because yeah, a centre back was kind of at play at this one as well. But there's also some great play as well.
100%. We built this up really as Koulibaly versus Thiago Silva, two former Chelsea defenders. But it was Hercules, the hero. Again, he scored the goal against Inter to seal that win the other day, and came up with a second goal as well too for Fluminense. And this is really just relentlessness from him. Honestly, this is what this goal is all about. Gets the initial shot off, chases it down, gets it back, finish that we're going to look at in more detail. But that really comes from Koulibaly aggressively stepping out and not really coming back into that position. You almost see Ruben Neves start to lean because he realizes that his right center back isn't there. And he's almost thinking, okay, I got to cover these guys, without even realizing the guy in front of him has a clear shot on goal. And we always say a goal is kind of an accumulation of mistakes. It's never just one. It's one that adds up to another, that adds up to another. The question for you, though, is that finish from Hercules right there, it's a little bit of a scuffed one. Some people might say he mishit that, but I actually think that's really good from him. Sometimes you can hit it almost too purely, and it's almost like easy for the goalkeeper to save. The fact that he's kind of scuffed that and bounced over the keeper, some may say it's intentional, but I actually think it's really smart from him. Yeah.
I think, do you know what, I kind of come back to the centre-backs for a second, because the Koulibaly thing's important, right? I feel like, again, to those assertive decisions, Koulibaly's kind of trying to be positive there, and it's actually hurt him in the end.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to try and push out because there's space thrown into, but like you can also see in that same clip is that when he pushes out, he is chased immediately by like 4 or 5 players, because that's what Fluminense are really good at, being really aggressive, and they commit to it, and the scrappiness of it, like it's not a beautiful goal they score, but it doesn't matter because they get through, and that's what I've seen from a lot of the Brazilian teams actually. It's just been really like super aggressive, front-footed, going for it, and teams don't like playing against that.
The first goal they scored against Inter the other day is the perfect representation of that. Again, they're building up, they lose the ball, and there's like a bit of a deflection that sends them through on. It's all a little bit chaotic, but
Inter in that game as well, it seemed that they didn't really realise how much Fluminense were going to go at them as well. So the first 5 minutes, like, oh my, what's going on here?
It's good. They blitzed them from the start, 100%.
Yeah, maybe they're destined to win it.
I'm with Maddie, man. You can never write them out, and I think, kind of like Umir said, they don't mind suffering. I think that's a very admirable trait for a team to have, a team that isn't afraid to secede possession and go periods of the game without even seeing the ball and defend for large periods. You saw the last 5-10 minutes of that game. It was literally the Al Hilal just throwing balls into the box, and Fluminense don't mind playing that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Brazilian Esteval started against his parent club in the second game of the day. And what
partita molto equilibrata, insomma, decisa da episodi che nel calcio ci sono. Chiaramente noi possiamo stare qui a recriminare, però ci sono affrontate 2 squadre. La Fluminense è una squadra molto organizzata, che sta facendo un ottimo torneo, e oggi, insomma, insieme alla Hilal, secondo me hanno fatto un quarto di finale dove, a parte la prima mezz'ora che è stata una partita un po' bloccata, poi ci sono state occasioni, ci sono stati tantissime possibilità per entrambe le squadre di segnare. Noi chiaramente, secondo tempo, avremmo meritato di più solo del gol fatto.
Me faz emocionar, né?
Ela quebra, eu não consigo nem olhar porque ela me quebra.
Mas é com muita alegria, com muito orgulho dessa minha decisão de voltar. Nós somos seres humanos e às vezes as coisas acontecem e a gente fica se perguntando por quê. Ano passado foi muito difícil, né? A gente livrou do rebaixamento na última rodada. E aí 6 meses depois, praticamente, você está numa semifinal de Mundial, de clubes onde estão as melhores equipes do mundo. Acho que o Papai do Céu tem nos abençoado, tem nos concedido passar por esse momento, assim. Mas eu devo muito isso à minha família, assim, porque não é fácil ficar longe. Meus filhos teve que voltar agora, só a minha esposa ficou. Porque eles têm a missão dele lá também, do Chelsea, de voltar a temporada. Mas eu sei que a gente está fazendo a escolha certa. Eles vão seguir o caminho deles. E isso com certeza vai me fortalecendo de alguma forma, mesmo estando longe de presença, né, de corpo, mas de coração, como eu falei da outra vez do Thiago. Meus filhos estão aqui comigo, meu padrasto está aqui comigo. Sem ele, com certeza, nada disso estaria acontecendo também.
Thiago tá super emocionado
cara,
também. Põe pra fora, Thiago, a hora é essa,
até pra
cara.
falar é ruim, é difícil pra cacete, porque assim, eu não tô em campo.
The semi-finals, Frank Leboeuf is joining us now to talk more about this, but we will have a Brazilian team, at least one, in the semi-finals, Stuart.
Yes, and I think they probably just about deserved it for the first 60, 70 minutes of the game. Al Hilal had a great sort of last 10, 15 minutes where they got lots of crosses into the box and caused lots of pressure. But a couple of good goals, they defended quite well, and yeah, good performance from them.
I've always said, for what it's worth, not a lot really, to be honest, for me coming in this competition. But I think it would be apt if one of the Brazilian, South American sides won it, because it just means more to them, means more to the supporters. Al Hilal, a bunch of mercenaries, good players, really good players. This was their big moment, wasn't it? The Club World Cup for them anyway, because nobody will care less, but they'll, mosey on back to Saudi Arabia, and nobody will bat an eyelid about the league, and they'll get paid well. It's just a shame that they're actually, when you look at the team, there's so many good players in that.
Milinkovic-Savic.
Milinkovic-Savic, who was brilliant in Italy for a long period. There's
Koulibaly, who was probably the best centre-half in Europe at one point.
He went to Chelsea, had a bad time. Kim goes to Bayern, he has a bad time. But, so it is a shame in a sense. Look, and Lodi, who was at Atletico Madrid, and the list goes on. And they put up a good fist in this competition, but these guys here, they've basically, at the end of the day, well, if we're being honest, they've just sold themselves out to go and play in Saudi Arabia. So this was for them the big sort of platform, and they didn't disgrace themselves, but they just came up short.
So in the game here, in that closing moments, Frank, I know that you disagree with what Casey said with that moment with Koulibaly.
You start the run and you grab each other, you have to let go. And one does it and the other one doesn't know. And I've been in that position. And I think there is a real foul, because when the ball comes, you have to be free. And the guy never let Koulibaly free at a certain point to hit the ball. So therefore, for me, yeah, that was a penalty.
There's no consistency in this. As we heard last year from the Premier League and others in Europe, that they were going to really clamp down on this kind of thing. And that was going to help try and eradicate most of the holding within the box from a set piece or a dangerous area. We saw, and I think the problem came with the consistency, we saw some calls given last year around Europe and others that were head scratchers that were not. And I think that is where the difficulty is when the holding takes place, is when is the right time. When is it the right time to let go?
What Frank's saying, you can hold on to each other until the ball's just about to be headed in or defended. But for me, Koulibaly started it by wrapping his arm round the defender's head. And once that takes place, the referee, I don't think, was ever going to give a penalty for that. Koulibaly has tried to force a penalty there by putting his arm round the defender's neck to start with, and then let go, as Frank said, at an important moment, but not a penalty.
But it just seems in the game in general, this has become more of a problem.
But what I don't understand is, why do defenders want to grab hold of attackers? now that the VAR looks at everything going on. Years ago, you didn't grab hold of people, you held them on one side, and there was no VAR, so you weren't going to get penalties given against you. But now, when you can get penalties given against you, people start to grab forwards. It's madness.
No, because it's allowed. And that's to Craig's point. If they start actually looking at it, even through VAR as well, and going, hey, you can't bear hug somebody in the box, so okay, penalty done.
You have a look over last season, how many penalties were given? There was a lot of penalties.
Okay.
So even with how you feel about that, Frank, you do think that Fluminense were deserving winners tonight?
I would say so, yeah. They were more consistent. There were some ups and downs, and we saw the team, clicking and suddenly disappearing, but overall...
Mas e agora? Eu quero saber o que você achou disso tudo. Você acha que o Flusão chega na final? Comenta aqui embaixo e bora trocar essa ideia.